Hi, and thank you for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Burden, an artist and your host for AZ Illustrated Arts. Coming up tonight, we'll look at some local events where art is receiving special attention and meet local artists who choose challenging subjects for their work. We'll visit a show that explores some of the ways that art can hold up a mirror to nature and capture the beauty of the desert ecosystem. We'll talk with two authors about what's bringing them back to this year's Tucson Festival of Books, and with Larry Dane Brimner about why he writes for young readers about the history of civil rights. And we'll meet a local artist whose work is driven by a love of sounds that many of us fail to hear. But first, a look at today's top stories.
The Arizona House is taking an investigative role when it comes to local law enforcement use of drones. Originally, House Bill 2269 would have required local and state law enforcement agencies to get a warrant before using drones to gather evidence. But now Representative Tom Forrestry changed the bill on the floor of the House to instead create a study commission on the use of drones. That change took place with no explanation or no discussion by the full House, which passed the bill and sent it to the Senate with a 54-5 vote. The committee is expected to look at privacy issues created by the use of drones. The Senate will not take up the bill before next week. Both chambers have adjourned for the weekend. Democrats in the Arizona House today tried to amend a transportation bill to overrule Governor Brewer's executive order banning illegal immigrants with work permits from getting driver's licenses. On a 23-35 vote, the House turned back the attempt to give licenses to immigrants who fall under what the Obama administration calls deferred action from deportation. The proposal's sponsor says the language would have clarified what is already in state law, despite the governor's executive order. Immigrant rights advocates have sued in federal court to get the governor's decision overturned. And if you enjoyed the taste of spring for the last few days, well, don't put away your warm clothes just yet. The National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory for most of southern Arizona beginning at 11 tonight. Forecasters say to expect snow above 4,000 feet and rain in the lower elevation. Daytime highs will dip into the 50s over the weekend. And that's a look at tonight's headlines.
Our Sonoran Desert region contains a surprising range of natural environments. From arid deserts to pine-top mountains, all of the world's biomes occur here. Though often overlooked, our desert grasslands feature an abundance of life and serve as the inspiration for a current exhibition at the Tucson Museum of Art. Next, we'll take a visit with Luis Carrion.
This exhibition is called Desert Grasslands. It was conceived as part of a consortium of museums and institutions that were discussing the idea over actually a couple of years to create symposia, exhibitions, programs that looked at the desert in many different ways, from comparing it to deserts all over the world, to addressing issues and art pertinent to the Sonoran Desert, the Chihuahuan, the Great Basin area, so all throughout the Southwest. It's amazing the number of artists who are becoming passionately involved in the environment. I had first come to learn about the numbers of artists involved in this particular topic when I did the exhibition Trouble in Paradise. But that one was specifically about disasters and about global warming and climate change. It did have a dark side to it. This exhibition, while many of the same artists are in this exhibition, are looking at the environment not from a doom and gloom, but from a real celebration. And that's what I found wonderful. It's not that the issues don't exist, but they still believe in the idea of restoration. There's a hope about this exhibition. And I love the collaboration so many of the artists already had with scientists and naturalists. Matilda Essig has been restoring 5 acres of grassland to reintroduce native species by using rotational cattle grazing. But she's an artist, so this is something that's part of a dual life. So she looks at the real close-up views of the beauty of a single blade of grass. Dorneth Doherty x-rays seedlings at native seed banks around the world, and she was looking at the idea of the evolution of seed structures and how we're today seeking so strongly to preserve our native species. Michael Berman, looking at his from the idea of the landscape as a language, how so many different factors enter in. It's not just nature in isolation, it's border issues, it's cattle grazing. So he created this wonderful, in a way, a mural or an installation of fragmented images, but they're installed and staggered in a way that almost looks like it's reading like lines in a poem. So that's what I found wonderful. It was fascinating when Kate Brakey was doing her installation. I had seen her work and I said, could you do an installation for us that just deals with desert grasslands animals? So she was doing photograms of birds and other animals, and at the last minute she said, can you wait to the last minute for me? I've just found a fawn. Her work deals with the idea of celebrating small deaths, deaths in the desert that are otherwise overlooked. It's a metaphor for paying tribute to these beautiful animals of the desert. In this case, I feel like it was a perfect storm of artists. This is an exhibition that is meant to look at things both empirically, just looking at it at face value for what you see, pure observation, but it's also looking at it very closely, in the microcosm of the world and the macrocosm, looking back. And that becomes a metaphor for life in itself. Don't overlook the mundane. Look at every little aspect of the world as something to celebrate, something to find beauty in, and then to step back and take a look at it to see what it means. And that's what's happening with all the work in this exhibition. Looking at it from the beautiful standpoint, but then the critical, the analytical aspects of nature and how it interfaces with humankind.
You can log on to azpm.org to see a video on visual artist M.F. Cardamone. Her work is part of the Grasslands exhibition and juxtaposes elements of traditional botanical illustrations with cultural references that reveal the connections between humans and the environment.
I decided to explore the idea of diversity. So that to me was, the biological and the human part of what is diversity.
Now an annual event, the Tucson Festival of Books brings thousands of readers together with their favorite authors on the U of A campus. It's a weekend-long celebration of all things literary, including a range of seminars on how to become a published writer. Joining me now to talk about their careers in writing and their involvement in this year's festival, I'm joined by Adam Rex and Jillian Cantor. In 2002, Jillian Cantor graduated from the University of Arizona's MFA program in fiction. Since that time, she has created novels for young adults, including The September Sisters and The Life of Glass, which was recognized with an award from the Arizona Library Association. She has also written fiction for adults, including an upcoming novel. Also a graduate of the University of Arizona, Adam Rex is an author and illustrator of children's picture books and books for young adults. His collection of stories about monsters and their problems, Frankenstein Makes a Sandwich, was a New York Times bestseller. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
So my first question is related to writing and your life. It seems like a creative life of a writer is a solitary one. So how does it feel to actually meet your readers face to face in the festival?
It's actually one of my favorite parts about writing because you spend so much time sitting at your computer by yourself, and sometimes you're not sure if anyone's ever going to read it. And then to get to go out and meet people that have read your book and to talk about it, it's amazing.
I think it's a nice thing you can do for anyone to ask them to talk about themselves and what they do for any length of time. And I love the festivals, and I I do a lot of school visits. I don't know if you do school visits as well, Jillian, but a lot of elementary and middle schools invite kids' book authors to come talk to their kids, and so that's always really invigorating as well.
What have you learned from your readers about your work, such as when you do a school visit or on a festival? What does that teach you?
I think it's taught me that I don't know, that my ideas are actually a little weirder than they feel like on the inside of my head. When I have them, they just seem like very typical children's book premises, and the librarians and the parents and the teachers that come up to me and tell me what a strange book I've written is always I can't even tell if it's a compliment, but it's it's out there anyway. So the kids seem to like it, but the adults sometimes don't quite get my aesthetic.
Tell us about your history with the Tucson Festival of Books.
Okay. In the past few years, I've been on panels as an author, and last year I moderated. And then for the last 2 or 3 years, I've also been involved with the fiction committee, so inviting authors and organizing some of the panels. And this year I'm going to be moderating 3 panels, 2 with some adult authors.
And what does moderating entail?
Moderating entails for me reading the books and coming up with a way to run the panel so that the authors feel comfortable and can talk about themselves, and usually coming up with some questions that will relate to the topics that we're going to go over.
And when do you find time to read all of those books?
That's a good question. I've been trying to get myself to read 1 book every weekend because it's hard for me to read another author's book when I'm writing my own stuff. I kind of like to keep them separate. So I've just started slowly, and I've been trying to read 1 of the books each weekend. I have about 3 books left to read, though, so I'm going to have to speed up in the next 2 weeks.
And Adam, how long have you been involved with the festival, and why do you participate?
Well, we're just lucky that we have one of the best book festivals in the country right now. I've been to book festivals in, I don't know, a dozen or 2 different states, and I understand just from talking to people involved that we have something like the 4th largest in the country now, and compared to a lot of the festivals I've been to, it's just a really top quality event. We get good people, and we have really great attendance, so I just want to be a part of it as much as I can to help it keep it going. And so far that's just been as a guest being asked to do events each year, because as it's turned out, I've had a new book coming out every year that the festival has been in swing. But if ever there comes a year that I don't, I want to be a moderator too and just keep my hand in.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me and wish you both good luck at the festival.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The 2013 Tucson Festival of Books is happening March 9th and 10th on the University of Arizona campus. There is a link to the complete schedule of events at our website, azpm.org.
The Senate today confirmed White House counterterrorism advisor John Brennan to be the next director of the CIA.
We get the latest on the vote coming after a fight and a filibuster over the president's authority to order drone strikes on American citizens on U.S. soil.
Then we update the moves to reach a bipartisan budget deal in Washington in a newsmaker interview with House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi.
We're here because the Republicans will not close any special interest tax loopholes in order to reduce the deficit. None.
Ray Suarez examines the United Nations Security Council's move to impose new sanctions on North Korea and Pyongyang's threat to launch a nuclear strike on the U.S.
And Hari Srinivasan looks at the passage of the nation's strictest abortion law in Arkansas, where nearly all procedures will have to be done in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. That's all I had on tonight's NewsHour.
The world's oldest declaration of human rights was etched into a piece of clay, the words of an ancient king of Persia, now Iran.
I ordered all men to be free to exercise their religion and free in movement. This inscription is really not unlike the American Declaration of Independence.
The Cyrus cylinder comes to the U.S. on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Author Larry Dane Brimner has written more than 150 books aimed at young readers, including both fiction and nonfiction. He says that more than 20 years of classroom teaching taught him many lessons about how to connect with a young audience. Growing up in a family whose roots were in Birmingham, Alabama, helped to make him interested in writing about racial prejudice and the crucial events of the Civil Rights era, including the church bombing that happened in Birmingham in 1963. Larry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So first I want to ask you a little bit about, as a Tucson resident, you normally appeared as a part of the Tucson Festival of Books, but I understand this year you had a tough choice to make. Tell us about that.
I did have a tough choice. They had invited me to moderate a panel, and I really wanted to do it. Besides, I've got a lot of friends who were coming in for the festival, and I thought it'd be great to see them. But the JFK Presidential Library called and invited me to be a speaker, and the dates are at exactly the same time. So I talked to one of my contacts at the festival, and she said, "You've got to go for it because this may be the only time they ask." So I'm going to Boston to the John Fitzgerald Kennedy Presidential Library to speak to teachers from the New England area largely about what steps I go through with my research and what things I've discovered by doing these three books.
So your most recent 3 books are about the Civil Rights era and the South. We Are One, it's about Bayard Rustin, Burmingham Sunday, which was about the bombings that happened in Birmingham in 1963 to 68, and Black and White. So we mentioned your Southern roots. Where does the commitment to writing about civil rights come from?
Well, part of it is my own family. My mom and dad were both liberal, and they would tell me stories about things that happened in Birmingham when they lived there. They were both born and raised in Birmingham, and they had left by the time I came along. But they would tell me these stories, and they were so ghastly that you just didn't believe most of them. And then, of course, there's also the aspect that most of these events were going on when I was a kid. And so this is history that kind of passed right over me because I was busy being a kid. And I wanted to kind of inform myself.
So what was the most significant discovery you made, talking about informing yourself and doing the research for your book, Burmingham Sunday?
Well, in Burmingham Sunday, I'd always heard about the 4 little girls. I didn't know that there were also 2 little boys killed that same day, not in the church, but in the violence that erupted later in the day, but they were killed by KKK members. One of them happened to be a police officer, and he shot a young teenager, and the other case was a couple of young boys shot a couple of black kids, shot a black kid and killed him.
That was one of the many new facts that I learned in looking at your book, so I appreciated those new tidbits being included. And it brings me to a question. You know, Maurice Sendak has a famous quote, in paraphrasing it, that talks about just tell children the truth. So in your works, how did you handle telling those kinds of difficult truths about bombings, about killings and the like?
I tell it like it happened. My books are aimed, these particular books are aimed for grades 4 or 5 on up, and they're used at all levels, but I just tell it the way it happened. I try not to cloak things. I don't go in for the gory details, but I will tell what happened, the way it happened, and I'm hoping to tug some heartstrings when I do that.
Would you mind reading a passage from one of your books so we can see how you tell it how it happened?
I would love to. Let me just say that I'll give you a little bit of background. This is from Black and White, my newest book. And leading up to this event, the Montgomery bus boycott was going on. Fred Shuttlesworth was very active in Birmingham at the time, and he basically sent, well, let me read it. He sent basically a threat to the city commissioners saying, you will follow this law when it comes out. You will integrate our buses in Birmingham by the 26th of December, or the blacks are going to rise. Of course, the buses didn't. What happened was his home was bombed, and it almost killed him. Fortunately, it didn't. But he called a meeting that very evening, Christmas evening, and this is the passage. The very next morning, Fred called a meeting of the of the group ACMHR. "We are going to do what we said we're going to do," he announced. The day after the Klan had tried to kill him, some 100 to 200 people stepped forward to join Fred in defiance of the segregation ordinance. He told his followers, "The Klan made their history last night. We make ours for God today." They fanned out in twos and threes so as not to tip off the police of their intentions and boarded buses all over town. And they rode. East, west, north, south. Some of them rode 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and each time they ignored the segregation ordinance. Birmingham's Negroes became a people in motion.
What sort of response have you received from your publishers about writing about these kinds of topics for young people?
Well, one of the interesting things that has happened is that other publishers have contacted me, and they've asked very quietly if I would write for them. In fact, sometimes not so quietly. I was at a conference signing in my publisher's booth, and an editor came to me and said, "We really want you to write for us," which I kind of thought was funny because my editor was sitting right next to me. But my editors, basically, they want more from me. But the one thing that has happened is that my publishing house has merged with other publishers. And in the past, when I used to be able to sit down, have coffee with my editor and say, "Gee, I think I want to write about Burmingham Sunday," and my editor would go, "Oh, wow, I'll send a contract." Now it's, you've got to do a proposal. And the last proposal I wrote, I sent it in 3 times, and they kept sending it back for tweaking. And finally I said, "I'm just going to write the book."
Well, I really appreciate you coming on to share with us the 3 books that you have, and look forward to seeing your next works in progress.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Next, we go on another open studio visit, our chance to hear local artists talk about the why and how of their art. Tonight, the medium is sound, and the artist is Glenn Weyant.
I was always consciously aware of the sounds around me. You know, there's a story that I usually tell about my grandfather. My grandfather was a Mets fan, and in the apartment in Palisades Park, New Jersey, he'd sit by the window. He had the lazy boy set up by the window. And so the window would be open, and there would be a breeze blowing in, you could hear the cars going by. And he'd be there with the Mets cap on, have the AM radio, you know, transistor radio, playing the Mets game, playing solitaire. And as a kid lying on the couch, just that whole sound, you know, the outdoors, the indoors, the micro, the macro. It's a very warm and fuzzy kind of feeling I get thinking about that. And so I think that's one of the first sounds that I can remember that really impacts me in a way that's positive. Yeah. When I was a child, the instrument that I was going to play was drums. And I liked to go outside and play things. And one day I went out to the front stoop and I was playing on the cement this little drum roll kind of percussive piece. And Mrs. Lanzadone was standing across the street. And when I was done, it wasn't where she was there, when I was done, she applauded. And it was like the first time that anyone had ever applauded something I had done musically. Somebody liked what I was doing, that connected with them. And so as I grew older, I listened more and more to objects. I remember going down to the basement of my grandparents' apartment building, listening to the pipes and tapping different things. Tapping my desk at school when I was bored, listening to the nuns, you know. All these different aspects of playing the world was just sort of festering and germinating and bubbling along. Bicycle wheels I've been interested in since I was a kid. I've found them fascinating. What I've come to learn is you can actually tune the spokes, and you can actually tighten them or loosen them to get a nice tension on there, and find relationships to the sound. So that particular wheel had a really nice sound. It was a matter of picking it up out of the garbage, plucking it, listening to it, thinking, I like the way that sounds. And tin cans are wonderful resonators. Well, the idea was to bolt it through the inner tube where the valve is, bolt it right onto that, and then it picks up the vibrations of the plucking of the spokes. So I call it a sound transmogrifier. You know, it's an instrument that I've built from scraps and put together and found to be pleasing. The tones that I get out of it are tones that sometimes can be visceral. You know, some of it may be ugly. Some of it can be very beautiful. It can do everything from warm drones to real, you know, nails on the chalkboard type of effects. So I use a guitar pedal that allows me to really boost the volume. So I'm hearing things that maybe would be buried if I were listening to it acoustically. It's nothing that is necessarily scientifically planned. It was sort of haphazard. Like there's some nails on it. And those nails over the years I've hammered in, I've taken out nails, but I found locations where the sound is always very interesting. Tucson is a great place to play. The architecture here, you know, everyone loves to use metal. There's lots of old metal lying around. There are border walls and fences. There's just so much to play here, and it's such a rich environment. You know, we take this stuff for granted living in Tucson, these wonderful sounds that we have around us. You take them and you bring them to a different location, people hear them, what is that? And they listen more deeply. I've collaborated with all sorts of folks, construction sites, the ice cream truck driving around. I've collaborated with people walking down the street. They're just not realizing that they're performing with me at the time. However, they are making sounds that I am using and I am then improvising with. You know, it's wonderful when I hear from somebody they've listened to something that I've done and they enjoyed it, or they've had some sort of a response to it. Even those who can't stand it. You know, it's not something that people can be passive about. There is a reaction. I think just getting a reaction is important because there's so much that we are passive about on a daily basis. You know, it means it got in there in some way. There's definitely a weirdo factor. It's not traditional. And so anybody that embarks on this path, I encourage them to practice often, to practice regularly, to get out there and investigate sounds. Maybe return to different places during different seasons. You know, metal sounds different during the summer than it does during the winter. Do it in the early morning hours when the metal's creaking when the sun hits it. You know, if you're gonna play the world, do it for real, do it often, practice, practice, practice.
Glenn Weyant says that storytelling and journalism also play a part in what he does. For more than 2 decades, he has been documenting the changing sound ecology of the borderlands between Mexico and the United States. That's our show for tonight. To post a comment on any of these stories or keep up with the latest news, visit our website, azpm.org. I'm Elizabeth Burden. Thank you for watching.